stream the day after. 7 matches on this card. John, without further ado, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from WWE Crown Jewel?
Tom, we don't ever bury the lead. And the lead, as usual for these pay-per-views, it's the main event. Cody Rhodes knocks off Gunther to win the Saudi Championship. I'm blanking on the name of this, but essentially the title they've created for the Saudi Arabia Crown Jewel show. Excellent matchup, as to be expected from these two. Real slow-moving stuff in the beginning, which was great. Crowd was really into it. And Cody Rhodes wins with somewhat of a roll-up pin. And Cody wins it. And that sends us home here. Tom, what'd you think of this matchup?
I enjoyed it. This was a great one-on-one matchup. Fantastic. Don't bury the lead. I apologize for writing 2023 rather than 2024 on the date. Well, the fixer is in. Yeah, that belt on Cody looks stupid. It is a big belt. Apparently, nobody gets to wear it. It stays at the WWE center out there in Saudi Arabia. They're home away from home in the Middle East. It's just brought out for display. Liv Morgan got one as well. There's a little spoiler for later in the show. If you watch the show, of course, you know Liv Morgan did defeat Nia Jax. I like this match with Cody and Gunther. Fantastic finish. Cody charges in, ducks a chop, goes into the corner, jumps all the way to the top turnbuckle, and tries for one of his super Cody cutters that he does. Jumps backwards, but Gunther is waiting for him, catches him, and applies the sleeper, which Gunther had applied 3 times earlier at least. But Cody rolls through, so Gunther's shoulders are on the mat and gets the pinfall. This match goes 23 minutes, and I love that Corey Graves brought up the finish from WrestleMania 8 of Bret Hart beating Roddy Piper for the Intercontinental Championship by doing the same type of finish. That was Piper's sleeper back then. What a great callback to that finish with Bret Hart and Roddy Piper when Hart won by, flipping through the sleeper. I really enjoyed the match. I mean, at times the crowd didn't seem into it because there was a lot of grappling early, a lot of holds. But this turned into such a fantastic match between two guys who we knew they were going to put on a great show, right?
Absolutely. And just another one from the fixer here is pretty good.
Yeah, right. It's way too big. It's got too many jewels on it. You would never wear it. It's just one more thing to lose, to get stolen. It looks ridiculous. At least the other belts, they're trying to make believe they were like boxing belts that you would actually wear.
Yeah, this one, they just went full-blown outrageous, which it's pro wrestling. You got to go for it sometimes, right?
Now, apparently they get a ring to wear, sort of like a Super Bowl ring.
Oh, they get both. Interesting.
Well, they get a ring. They don't get the belt. The belt stays in Saudi Arabia, but they get a ring to actually wear. So that might be neat. So, what did you think about champion versus champion? The gimmick for this?
Well, as far as the match was concerned, it was fantastic. It really was. I loved the style of it. I think the crowd was really into it. And you see, even though they're not doing too much, they're just doing the grappling in the beginning. They're both so good at it, and they're both so over that the crowd is reacting to the littlest things. You don't really see a high spot until 4 minutes into them wrestling, because sometimes they do the wrestling and they're like, okay, we got the wrestling out of the way. Let's move to these other transitions. Let's start doing dives. But they really milked the wrestling for all it can be, and it's one of these things where Cody, Gunther is fantastic. He's the best wrestler in the world, in my opinion. But Cody can really hold his own for sure.
Yes,
in that style of that amateur, or you will, mat wrestling, let's just call it.
And he's a smaller guy, but he was able to do some power stuff. He did get him up for a scoop slam, although they teased one time where he couldn't get him up because of a bad back. But he scoop slammed Gunther. He did the snap slam off the ropes. So Cody was able to show some power, right?
Yeah.
You have any favorite sequences here between these two guys?
Yeah, I have a few. So,
Good.
there was a big chop from Gunther, just a massive chop, and Cody bumps, and Gunther goes to the crowd and sells it. And like he never sells to the crowd, and the crowd just like erupts when he like gives it to them a little bit, you know. So you don't.
He's getting
Not
better at
yeah.
playing to the crowd.
He had the mentality, and the crowd was already into it,
Mhm.
and he the crowd was already into it, and he just had the foresight to kind of be like, let's pack it on a little even more, even with the heat, and he was able to get that.
Mhm.
I love Cody reached for the rope and got the breakup in a submission, and
Mhm.
right away Gunther just slaps at his arm, breaks off his arm, and German suplexes him. Rather
Yep.
than a lot of times they get to the rope and then it's just like hurry up and they just stop, and there's like
Mhm.
an awkward pause there while they hold the rope. He just
Yep.
right away saw him get to the rope, hacked at his arm, German suplex. It's like, wow, that really makes sense, you know?
Yeah, that was a beautiful sequence. If I could just describe it there, Cody went for a disaster kick, but Gunther caught him, turned it into a Boston Crab. Gunther then
Mm-hmm.
switched to the sleeper. That's when Cody got to the ropes, and Gunther does the German suplex you were talking about, and just reapplies the sleeper. Cody jawbreakers out. Gunther reapplies. Cody jawbreakers out again. Gunther tries to reapply, but then Cody counters into reverse face lock and a crossroads, but they couldn't cover. What a fantastic sequence! And I will allow that the fact that the crowd went, "This is awesome" after that sequence. Like, okay, you can do that. You know, if
You get
this is the only time this is awesome is acceptable is when both guys were so freaking great that you couldn't just cheer for one.
it wasn't just
That
because
was
you're
a
excited.
tremendous sequence.
Yeah. No, it was so good. I have another one from the fixer here.
Gunther is the current world champion on Raw, but you think he might be, if he drops that, he may take the other belt as well.
The
The
big belt.
undisputed champ
Yeah.
may get Cody's belt at some point. I don't know. They mentioned that Cody and Gunther had never had a one-on-one matchup on this one, but they had Cody had eliminated Gunther in 2 consecutive Royal Rumbles, including Cody's comeback in 2023 when the
Oh,
two of
right.
them engaged in about a 10 to 15 minute one-on-one there at the end, which
Which
we
was
thought
great.
was really important because Cody had to show that he could wrestle coming off that injury. So these guys have a little bit of history here. Give me another key sequence you love. That was a beautiful one. I noted that one as well.
Yeah. That was great. Some of the I just always write the same notes for Gunther. I can't help myself. Just the
Uh-huh.
stiff chops. I love the chops.
Yes.
They're always fantastic. We don't see them a lot. Only in
Nope.
the pay-per-views or these special events. So when we see him, I only have one minus. I noticed Gunther did say "You okay?" and they got him on camera. They were
Oh,
zoomed on both their faces, and they're laying on the mat, and he says "You okay?" to him. I was like, that's really the cameraman's bad, as they're kind of like giving each other whatever.
yep.
You don't want to catch them talking. That was my only
No.
minus of like what I thought was a fantastic matchup.
Yeah, that's a problem in the director's room, right? Because wrestlers are supposed to check in with each other during the match, especially when their faces are near each other.
Yeah, when they're
So,
head to head,
no
they're
need
gonna
to zoom there.
right.
You
And they were
zoom in on
doing
them when there's action. You don't zoom in on them when they're just lying on the mat.
yeah, and they did a great job highlighting the crowd and when they were going crazy and chanting. I don't even know what the hell they were chanting.
Sometimes it was like they weren't into the match, at least, especially early.
Mm,
They were just chanting to chant. There was the soccer hooligan crowd.
yeah, it was chants to chant rather than chants because we're really liking what we're seeing, which we see that overseas, and a lot of people just are like, "Wow, the overseas crowd is great," but we have a different opinion where I'm like, "Yeah, they're
Yeah,
not really. They're just partying out there. They're not really into what's going on."
yeah. Like I'd be annoyed by that. Like I'm trying to watch the match.
Right?
Yeah, I had a couple things. I see if
Yeah.
you noticed this. Cody early on did the jabs and wind up for the bionic elbow, but Gunther just chopped him off his feet.
Hmm.
I like that Cody misses the bionic elbow early.
Yeah.
I also like Gunther doing his drop kick power bomb, but Cody kicked out of it. And then later on, Gunther really plays into the heel stuff. He's mocking Cody with the slaps to the face in the corner. But Cody fires up, babyface comeback, gets the advantage with strikes, does the side suplex. Gunther comes off the ropes. Cody catches him with the crossroads as Gunther's coming off the ropes. That was a neat wrinkle for a 2.5 count. I love that. And at the very end, Gunther was doing a much better job of being a heel. But at the end, Gunther goes up to Cody and extends the hand as a show of respect. Kind of a babyface move by Gunther. I liked seeing it. It was old school stuff. Like, you have a great match, you respect them. Like real sportsmanship. But not the kind of thing that you would expect the heel to initiate. Like, I could see Cody doing that to Gunther. And then Gunther maybe reluctantly saying, okay. But Gunther approached. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if maybe Gunther's having a babyface turn at some point. But I thought that was pretty cool, and it was a babyface move.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting end where they shook hands, but then he was like kind of jawing a little bit, which is kind of heely.
Yep.
So the shaking of the hand in Healy is like very tweener, right? You're like,
Yep.
all right, well, it wasn't like great match, you deserved it. It was like
Gunther has an insane, talented wrestler. Getting pushed is going to show he's worthy. I mean, he's the world champion for a reason. He's had a great run.
Yeah, and he's got one more belt to get to, probably to be considered the top guy. And I mean, for the people that just like an old school style of wrestling, a very realistic style of wrestling, and especially in the modern day, maybe not so much gymnastics, but some real boots to ass kicking, kind of like, tough guy wrestling that you're kind of, if you will.
Yeah, I think I would call this match of the night. Would you call this match of the night?
Certainly.
All right. Well, let's go through, run down what the other results were, and then you tell me if anything else could have been a runner-up to match of the night. It opens with the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa winds up in the 6-man match, pinning Roman Reigns after 2 Samoan spikes. Solo Sikoa pins Roman Reigns. Now, there was some 4-on-3 there at the end for the Bloodline. Post-match, Roman tries to go after Solo. It becomes a schmoz, and eventually Jey Uso winds up with the chair around his neck. Sami Zayn's music hits. Sami comes out to save Jey. He gets between Jey and Solo and the rest of Bloodline 2.0. Solo extends his hand for Sami to join him. Sami walks toward him for the hug and then exploder suplex. Now, eventually, the 4 of the original Bloodline are each in a corner. They've got Solo in the middle there. This was a good 7 minutes or so post-match here. Roman and Sami charge from opposite sides. Solo ducks. Roman and Sami collide. And so this ends with Jimmy being ticked off at Sami, Jey trying to get between them because Sami just saved Jey, and Sami leaving the ring. Like, Sami was out there to protect his friend Jey, not because he was part of the Bloodline again. This will be interesting. They've got 4 weeks to get to Survivor Series War Games. If this is what they want, Bloodline versus Bloodline, they've got really 3 weeks to get Sami on board. I'm interested to see what happens. That was interesting, though. Bloodline 2.0 gets the upper hand for now. Women's Tag Team Fatal 4-Way, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair retain. They do their double team move and pin Piper Niven. Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed. Seth hits a stomp on the ring steps on the floor. Reed gets color above his left eyebrow. Looked like the hard way. Seth gets a stomp in the ring, then a top turnbuckle stomp for the pinfall. That match goes 12.5 plus a 2.5-minute match pre-brawl. The Women's Crown Jewel Championship that we mentioned. Liv Morgan defeats Nia Jax with help from Raquel Rodriguez and Dominic Mysterio, and a little distraction from Tiffany Stratton. This match only goes 8 minutes. Nia winds up losing this thanks to all the interference. Liv hits an oblivion on a staggered Nia Jax for the pinfall. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. Match never happened. 7 minutes of pre-match beating the heck out of each other in mayhem. It ends with them in the crowd fighting. Kevin Owens goes up to a platform, jumps off of the railing, elbows Randy Orton through some tables.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. Championship triple threat, LA Knight retains against Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. He interrupts Melo's facebuster attempt on Andrade by BFTing Melo as they're all in one motion. Everybody hits the mat. LA covers Melo for the pinfall. That match went only 9 minutes, but full of action. So, John, if you could pick something other than Gunther Cody Rhodes to be runner-up for match of the night, what was your favorite?
Dom, I really liked Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed.
Tell us about it.
Seth Rollins over Bronson Reed. This one was surprising for me because we don't watch a lot of Raw, so I never see Bronson Seth Rollins in the past. He definitely always brings it during the pay-per-views, but I really liked it because of the contrast in style between the two guys.
Yeah.
The big powerhouse Hoss and Bronson Reed. He's as hossy as it gets, right? Mm-hmm. For a guy that can move around, he's maxed out how hossy he could be. If he was 10 or 20 pounds more, he'd be a blob. He'd be too slow. It wouldn't be able to do it. So he's right there.
He's Bam Bam Bigelow.
Bam Bam, exactly. Yep. That's it, which is a great place to be.
Oh, Bam Bam's a classic, yeah.
And then Seth Rollins was, the contrast in style was really good. They had a good start where they started brawling in the beginning before the bell rang. So it increased the intensity, and they've had it kind of reminds you, they had that rivalry going that's been going for a while now. I did kind of want to see Bronson Reed get the W, but I guess Seth has been kind of taking a lot of losses, so they just tossed him a W. I mean, it felt like
Reed he's just strong here, doesn't he? Though post-match, Bronson Reed gets back to his feet and is drawing at Seth Rollins to get back in the ring, and Seth won't do it.
Just from a bell to bell, I would want to see more of this. So hopefully they keep this going. And, there's not a title at line, but they have set up a rivalry. And it's cool to see guys like Bronson Reed, who aren't, household names, that they're not even people that we know a lot about, really perform in a big spot like this. How about you? That was my match of the night.
I like the triple threat for the U.S. title. I thought the guys have really developed some chemistry with each other. It only went 9 minutes, but there was a lot of action, and I really like the spots where all three guys were involved. Early, Melo did a first 48 on Andrade, but he landed onto LA Knight as he did it, so it winds up being a senton on LA Knight. Great combination thing. Then he lifted Andrade up into the air for the suplex cutter and winds up dropping him onto LA Knight. So involving all three guys. Melo covered both guys. They both kicked out. LA Knight took a lot of punishment for the champ, but eventually he does win. I love Melo and Andrade doing a something on the top turnbuckle that the announcers called a beautiful reversal, but I don't know what it was supposed to be originally. So, what were they reversing? That's the only thing I don't get with these guys. Is every now and then beautiful reversal of what?
Right.
They were just this is just mayhem. While they were both down, LA Knight went up to the top turnbuckle and elbow dropped both guys. He basically landed between them and gave one elbow to each guy. Great move. I've never seen that before. But a great wrinkle for a triple threat. I really like that. He draped an arm over each guy, but they both kicked out. One mini botch that went near the finish is as Melo and Andrade were battling on the top turnbuckle again. LA Knight went for the leap up, but slipped. But he recovered enough and belly to back suplexed Andrade. Then Melo saw both guys down and hit nothing but net top turn leg drop to the back of LA Knight, covered him, and Andrade barely broke up the pinfall. So great timing by all three guys. And of course, the only other thing to say there is for 9 minutes, these guys had a lot of action. And they've developed some good chemistry. Anything you saw from this match that I may have missed it or that you wanted to go over in a little more detail?
No, I think you covered it well. Only thing I would say is the right guy won, as L.A. Knight has had this title for a while, dating back to SummerSlam.
Yeah, dating back to SummerSlam. It's weird. That's one of the longest reigning title reigns now, after going through the Gunther and Roman Reigns era, where guys held it for a year and a half, 2.5 years, somewhere around there. Now that we've had belts switch a lot, a guy holding it for 4 or 5 months. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
I
this
think
one
they
I
said
didn't
that right
know.
now the longest reigning title holder right now is Liv Morgan.
Wow, yeah, that is wild because she won it at SummerSlam as
Less than half
well.
a year. Less than half a year, yeah.
Oh no, right. I'm sorry. When did she win it? I'm trying to think. She take it
After
from eight.
WrestleMania was when Rhea Ripley got hurt.
Oh, right.
So
And then
it's barely less than, it's not even half a year yet. So we've had a lot of belts switch early. It's been good. John, tell me one match that you were maybe disappointed in. Were there any?
I mean, from my perspective, I would say you could have easily skipped the women's fatal 4-way tag match. That is complete filler. SmackDown. It feels like a SmackDown match at like 8:30. Not even the main event of SmackDown. They just have all these people together. It's almost like, oh, look at all these women, look at all the theme song, look at all the gear. They do a bunch of, it's the stipulation. The fatal 4-way tags are just not good. I've never seen one where I was like, this is good. So yeah, that's my dud of the night, but it's not the wrestler's fault. It's more the booking. It's like, all right.
My disappointment of the night is related to that. There are rumors that match was not supposed to be on the card.
Oh.
On Raw, Rhea Ripley suffered a freak injury headbutting Liv Morgan. She fractured her own right eye socket.
Oh.
So they had to very quickly run an angle on NXT this week that Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez beat up Rhea Ripley in the parking lot.
Okay.
They were rumoring that Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez was supposed to be on this card, and that fatal 4-way women's match maybe got thrown together because they had to nix that one. That also means that Rhea Ripley was not in Saudi Arabia on this card. I think the Women's Crown Jewel Championship was rebooked. I think Rhea was supposed to have a role to play in that match. So I'm disappointed, not because of the performance of anybody on the card, but I'm disappointed that there was just a freak injury to Rhea Ripley, and it affected at least one and probably two of the matches on this card.
Oh, well, that's crazy. I didn't even that's great insight, actually. I did not realize that Rhea's injury forced this match. It's not like they delivered, but fatal 4-way tag match. That's tough. That's a tough one to get over. I'm sure all the
It
stuff
wasn't
was
bad though. Everybody got their stuff in, right? And they didn't make the newcomers take the loss.
It wasn't awful. It wasn't
and the newcomers did not take the. Every now and then you see a newcomer in a match like that. Like, okay, they're there to, they are there to take the loss. It didn't happen. Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend looked good and did not get the pinfall. Piper Niven, who can afford it, took the pinfall.
Lash Legend and
Jakara Jackson.
What is their name now? It's like
oh gosh, I forgot what they called them.
Metaphor.
What is it?
Metaphor.
Okay, I was not expecting that.
I was gonna. So it's Meta and FOUR. I did not get it. I'm like, what is his name?
No, there's two of them.
Exactly. There's two of them. It's Metaphor. Is there two others? I don't know.
Do they each have split personalities? What's going on? John, I passed kindergarten math. There were two of them, not four.
Two of I know. I was so confused by the name.
Why not call him Timbuktu?
I was watching it with other people. They're like, Metaphor? What does that mean? Yeah. I was like, I don't know. What could it possibly mean? I just wanted to
metaphor for something.
I want to highlight the fixer. Sorry, we're kind of doing a speed run of this one fixer.
Saudi event Go ahead, you read it.
Yeah, Saudi event has upped its event, but it's still no WrestleMania or SummerSlam.
Fair, but is it now a notch below them? Is it now something you look forward to that's as big an event as anything other than the big two?
It's one of these things from my perspective that horrible. And I think
Yep.
it was actually on a Friday. Like it would be a Friday afternoon, so nobody watched it live when it first started. And then it was interesting because it was like the WWE Network. It's like a free event. I'm like, what's going to happen there? What's it going to be like? And it was always interesting to see the get-ups of the dudes in Saudi Arabia, showing my ignorance to the faith and culture there. But whatever the guys
very
wear,
different dress.
yeah, the people's attire in the crowd.
Yep.
I did want to mention one thing I noticed. So they had
Sure.
all these guys in their Saudi Arabian what have yous, and then there was a guy in a T-shirt that said "What?" question mark, like the ultimate American, like black T-shirt, what question mark chant, like T-shirt, like this guy looked like. I was like, wow, this is just this is a perfect representation of the United States. He might
He
as
could
well
have
been
been
like,
at a South Jersey indie show.
yeah, he should have had like a giant 64-ounce Coca-Cola and a hot dog, like just totally American. But and he's around all these people in their, get up. So it was a great visual. That's all I have for the show. How about you? Anything else you wanted
That's
to
all
add?
I have as well. This pay-per-view lasted about 3 hours.
Yeah.
They got 7 matches in about 3 hours. It was almost like running a Raw.
There we go. So Tom, is it drive time?
I think it is. We've done a very speedy, a very high gear recap of Crown Jewel here. It is time for drive time. It's time for you and I to distill this premium live event into a simple thumbs up or a thumbs down. There are no ties. There are also no star ratings, no letter grades, no number grades. You're taking this course. Pass, fail.
Tom, we're not Dave Meltzer. This isn't 7 stars at the Tokyo Dome. This isn't 2 stars at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. No. This is not star ratings. We just give the thing a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We are not Dave Meltzer. I repeat, we are not Dave Meltzer. Dom, are you ready?
I am ready.
3, 2, 1. Oh, 2 thumbs up. Dom,
like
why did you give this a thumbs up?
I agree with you that maybe a match or two could have been cut from this card, but I mean, nobody performed badly. So, I mean, it seems like a little souped up, maybe Monday Night Raw, 3 hours, 7 matches, cramming them in. But I mean, the main event was awesome. The triple threat match was awesome. We got to see some people we don't see a lot, like Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed, who performed well. So there were no negatives here. I'm not going to crap on a show just because they tried to get a lot in, and because they had to do some last minute changes because of just a freak injury to Rhea Ripley. I mean, I'm not going to knock them because everybody pulled it together and performed well.
Yeah, but from my perspective, it's all about the main event really delivered. Gunther is fantastic. Cody and Gunther are both way over, and it was just cool to see these guys match up. I'm not necessarily a huge storyline guy necessarily. So if the wrestling's good, I'm a happy camper. And you don't get much better than Gunther in the main event. And we saw that in SmackDown years ago when we were watching Gunther in the main event. So Gunther and Cody delivered. If Gunther,
what
and
about
Cody,
one storyline thing though? You got one storyline thing in the opening match. Did that do it for you, or was that like I could have done without the schmaz?
I think it was fairly obvious that Sammy was going to be on their side. Although it was cool to see Solo Sikoa beat Roman Reigns, pin him. So that was cool. I think just from my perspective, it like that main event really carried it. If you cut out the main event, I might be teetering toward a so good, and then I was thumbs up. All right.
Yeah,
I have
I like it too.
one more chat coming through before